You're watching Screw It on SuppleWine. I'm your host, Mike Supple. Well, it's that time of year again. Time for big Thanksgiving dinners and a plethora of holiday shindigs. So what if it's your responsibility to either host one of these or provide the booze for one? The biggest question on my mind always is, how much wine do I need to buy? Well, that's going to vary slightly depending on obviously how many people are going to be there, but also on what type of event, what kind of food there's going to be there, and the duration of the party. The easiest one to plan for is a small sit-down dinner. If you have a dinner lasting about 1 to 2 hours or so, it's pretty safe to assume that your guests will each consume about half a bottle of wine during that dinner. That's some pretty easy math you can do for yourself. Now things get a little more complicated when you're throwing in a more informal cocktail party, or if you're throwing in a little bit of a drinks hour or something before you sit down to dinner, like at Thanksgiving for example. People show up, you want to start having some wine before the dinner. But there are still some pretty easy ways to figure out approximately how much wine you're going to need for your guests. For an informal cocktail event, or if you're just having drinks before dinner, it's a safe bet to assume that each guest will drink 2 glasses of wine in that first hour time period. Obviously some might drink more, some might drink less, but we're going to go with an average and get 2 glasses per wine in that first hour. Now after that, it's generally safe to go with every additional hour will be about 1 to 2 glasses of wine per guest. When you're pouring glasses of wine for your guests, you don't need to fill it all the way to the top. Particularly if there are several different wines to choose from, your guests might not want a full glass. So they can try some of one thing, try something else, and be able to go back and forth without getting very drunk. Even if you only have a couple of different choices of wine though, it's still good to keep it in around a 5-ounce pour. That gives you 5 glasses of wine per bottle. It's a good number to work with. It's a good size glass of wine that you guys won't burn through too quickly. But that also gives them the flexibility to try something else. And briefly on the topic of how many wines to have at a party, I find it's a lot easier on me as a host and on your guests if you don't give them too many options. If you just have, say, 1 good white and 1 good red, it's easy for you to supply the wine that way, and it's a lot easier for your guests to decide to go back and forth if they want white at the beginning of the evening and then switch to red, or if they just want to stick with one the whole way through. And it's easier for you to refill the glasses. Don't have to worry about, oh, am I mixing a Cabernet with a Shiraz or something else? If you have red, you have red. If you have white, you have white. It's pretty easy to see what's in that glass. So how do these numbers all break down, and what does it all mean in reality to you? Well, let's say you have 10 people over for dinner for Thanksgiving. Thinking maybe it's about a 3-hour evening, you have an hour for setup and hanging out beforehand, and then maybe about a 2-hour dinner. So what you want to do, you get 10 people times 2 glasses in that first hour. So that's 20 glasses of wine in that first hanging out and just enjoying yourselves and relaxing hour. Over the next 2 hours of the meal, and since you're averaging 1 to 2 glasses of wine per person, let's just do 10 times 1.5. There you go, it's 15. Times 2 hours is 30. So 30 glasses during the meal, 20 before the meal, that's 50 glasses. 50 glasses divided by 5 glasses per bottle gives you 10 bottles of wine. That should get you through the meal and through your 3-hour evening pretty well. Now, when you're starting to talk about parties that last longer than 3 hours, you need to get a little bit of flexibility in there, and that's when it helps to know a little bit about your guests. As parties begin to draw out longer than that, a lot of parties, the consumption rate will slow way down. Now that's because you have guests that are, so they're getting full, they're done with drinking, they're maybe thinking, oh, I need to get home at some point this evening, so I have to be driving. It's definitely, you don't want to be driving when you're under the influence of alcohol. You'll have people slowing down. But in other events, parties, people are going to be staying overnight, or just a big all-night party and rager, they might be ramping up the drinking after the party, or after the dinner. So it's just good to know your guests and what style of party you're throwing. And of course, if Uncle Bob's coming over, he sucks down 2 to 3 bottles himself, it's not a bad idea to just stick a box of wine underneath his chair so he's got it ready to go and he doesn't need to fluctuate your numbers and mess you all up. You want to make sure you have plenty of water as well. Whether it's a 1-hour event or a 4-hour event, alcohol dehydrates you. You want to make sure your guests can stay hydrated. It's also nice to have a few different selections of drinks for people that either don't drink alcohol or for the designated drivers. Maybe have some soft drinks and some sodas in there. It's an important thing you just don't want to skip over. So have a safe, fun, and a happy holiday season and enjoy throwing your parties.